Well, the Toronto numbers are in for the real estate for the month of February of 2023. Here in the Greater Toronto Area, we are continuing to experience the same thing that we've had over the past year. We're seeing a decline in prices across the board, really, really bad on prices, very bad on turnover. And we're going to get into a little bit of why this is happening and to show you some real world examples of what is happening today. So, if we're going to jump straight into the article of today, you guys, I think there's a lot that you can pay attention to. Let's jump into the first article and the first market report. So, this is coming from the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. Now, if you just look at a glance, we can see right away that in February, the prices were $1,095,000. Now, it is coming in at 17.9% less than February 2022, but this is a blend price between detached, semi townhouses, and condos. Now, we can also see the number of home sales is far, far less. See, 47% less than it was last year. Also, new listings are way, way, way down. When we're looking at the sales to new listing ratio, that too is down. So this is just a snapshot of it. We do get more in-depth stuff. Now, we don't have to get into the super in-depth stuff because this is a lot more complicated. We can read into it a lot more. It also shows you here the GDP growth is flat. So the economy is not growing in Toronto. Employment growth, not very much. But if you look right here, Toronto unemployment rate is at 6% and it's dropping. The unemployment rate in Toronto is really bad these days. It's not doing well. And so if you go down, of course, it'll show everything by different price points, by detached, semi-detached homes, and it also go into every single different area, Burlington, Hamilton, all the different areas of Toronto and all the different regions. But this is a very, very long report. We don't have to get into it. 27 pages. It'll make your mind go numb. This is what you have to know is that prices are continuing to fall and home sales are continuing to fall. So it's important to know that. But the biggest driver here is of the interest rates. And we're going to be talking about that a bit later. But the interest rates is what's going to move everything for everybody. So these interest rates, if you look here on the very first loan, this is where is going to make the difference for you. It's all coming from the bank. We live in a centrally controlled economy where everything goes from the government. So if we look at the mortgage rates here, the principal is at, let's just say $1 million home right here. And we got it last year at 2% interest rates on a 25-year fixed. I haven't changed anything else. You see here, your monthly payment is $4,000, $4,000, $4,200. But if you change that loan amount to 630% at 6.5%, same term, notice that is the exact same price, also $4,200. But where did that extra, do you notice right here? It's missing $470,000. No, $370,000 from the 1 million down to 630. Where did it go? It shows up right here in the interest category. So the government, by raising the rates, is able to remove $3,700 off of the value of your home and put it straight in their pockets. It's going to be paid to them in interest. Now, that interest is obviously split between the government and the banks, but that's where that $370,000 goes. It doesn't just evaporate. They're taking it. They're stripping it away from the property. But herein lies the problem. So last year, that same guy making the same job at the same wage, now he can no longer afford $1 million home. The banks will only give him a loan on $630,000 for that property now. He can't afford any more. Do you notice that? It's such a massive, massive difference, you guys. So that $1 million down to $630,000. It's shocking to me that amount of difference. But here is the key. Do you notice that the interest rate was at 2 and now it's at 6.5? What is the difference between that? 4.5%. 4.5. And remember the rule: for every 1% that the interest rate drops or raises, it will move the home price by 10%. So when an interest rate goes up 1%, you lose 10% off the value of the home. So what you do here is 2% to 6.5. That's 4.5%. that means a property will drop 45% in value. If you go and look at this, though, you're going to say, well, David, that's not 45%, that's only 37%. And you're right, because we can't just, it's not in one shot. So when they reduce say they raise the interest rate by 1%, when they raise it 1%, the home will drop 10, but now it's only 90% of the remainder. If they raise it one more percent, now it's 10% of the 90% remainder. And so it's a sliding scale. But the point is that it will keep dropping over and over. Now, if we look at Toronto, well, it has lost a lot of money, but what is still going in right now, right here, we can see that nearly 30 billion is admitted to GTA housing linked to money laundering. And this is not going to stop anytime soon. This is going to continue. And we've seen these problems continue for many, many, many years. And so if the government goes and looks at a whole bunch of stuff and finds magically finds $30 billion that is missing, imagine what the real problem is. It's probably sitting at $200 billion. And far too many times we've talked to mortgage brokers, we've talked to lawyers before, and they talk about problems being rampant all over Canada. And the reason that people want to bring their money into Canada is because number one is rule of law. And so anywhere that you invest in the world, you want to be able to buy a home and not think about if the government is going to move in and seize all your property. Just think about like Central America, kind of Africa, different jurisdictions may come and go and seize your property, right? That can happen. And so this case, it's not happening. So that's a very, very good thing. And so you have to be careful, right, that we're in a rule of law jurisdiction. That's why the world wants to dump their money here. But up until now, since the mid 90s, we've only been receiving money from other countries as they dump it all into real estate and leave the properties empty. And so we're stuck here in our major cities with millions and millions and millions of properties that are empty, and it doesn't leave any homes available for the people who live here. So there's a lot of problems that we have in real estate right now. But we are subject to that interest rate that is going up, that 1, 2, 3, 4%. Now, how much farther are we going? Next week in Canada, we're going to be having another meeting from the Bank of Canada. The Bank of Canada is going to be deciding if the rates are going to go up or down using that exact same rule of the percentage of drop. If they raise the rates 0.25%, which is what is expected, if they raise it 0.25%, what will that entail? What will that bring on for you? That means on $1 million home, it generally will lose about $25,000 worth of its value because people can no longer afford it. We did a live before when we were talking about this, because when we were looking at it before, we were showing how these properties have changed on the structure. So meaning the home prices will have gone up 4 or 5 times in value, but people's salaries have only gone up 10%. So we are giving an example before of this property that it was sold before. It was a part-time nurse that owned the property, and she was able to afford those payments on it as a part-time nurse. And today you would have to be a CEO of a company making over $400,000 per year for that same home. No part-time nurse would be able to afford it anymore. And we've now come into these crunch times now where the majority of people who service the cities can no longer live in them. So you can't just have a city of millionaires. That's the problem. We always will need people to work. So a lot of things got to happen. Now, the people who have not made sure that they are carefully looking for the downside, we always have to plan and find out what the risks are. Before last year, I never thought there was a chance that they would ever raise the rates as much as they did. But they have. And they, what I had suspected actually has come true, that the governments are in a lot of trouble. Now, let me try to share my screen with you. I want to show you one last thing before you guys get going, okay? Let's share this screen with you now. And I'm going to show you what I've showed in Toronto. Now, this is where Toronto is running into some big problems. I mean, big ones, okay? So just imagine for a second that we made about $100 billion in real estate transactions that were happening across Toronto. So every different area code, generally every area code, like the first 3 digits, the FSA, every area code is making somewhere between $500 million and $1.5 billion in sales per year. So imagine, let's just say for a second, last year, $100 billion in real estate transactions took place. Let's just say it's 100 billion. Well, we already covered earlier that 50% less homes have sold. So immediately, if 50% less homes have sold, now all of a sudden we are down to only $50 billion of profit has been made, only 50 billion. But that's not the end of the story. We also have 30% lower prices. So if you take off 30% off of 50 billion, we're going to be around somewhere around $35 billion. Remember, when we're talking about all these different people coming to the country, now let's say that we were talking about immigrants, or let's say we're talking about tourism of some kind. We're usually talking about it raising the rates, for the city, maybe bringing in another 1 billion, 2 billion. To lose $75 billion of activity is ginormous. It's really, really hard for us to even fathom that kind of loss, to be honest with you. It's really, really rough on a lot of different people. So this is where I think you guys have to pay attention. How do we recover that $65 billion of loss? Now, everybody thinks for a second that $100 billion is just paid immediately to realtors. Okay. So just think of this for a moment. When you are a realtor, what things does a realtor have to pay for? Now, I could tell you from my own situation, who do I pay for? So when you are a realtor, you have to now take that money, the 100 billion that you made, and basically spend the 100 million as well. You're going to be buying advertising. You have to send it to Facebook, to Instagram. You have to have web builders building it. You have people that help you on your team that you're paying for. You're paying for photographers, videographers. You're paying for advertising, print advertising, the signs outside. Then you have to get lawyers involved, right? And the lawyers have to do the transactions. Guess what else? The biggest fee is cities actually have that welcome tax, duty, stamp duty, whatever they're going to call it. When you move and buy a property, you have to pay a lot of fees. And so now cities are also suffering with 70% less income that they had before. And where are they going to get that? So the cities now are going to have to raise taxes a lot to get that income. So whatever income is made, it's the income of somebody else as well. So it's not just a loss of that $65 billion out of the pockets of different realtors. It's now that loss again of the people that they pay the bills to and who they pay the bills to. So it just is this downward spiral of property prices going down. And this is a big, big issue for us to look into. So to be safe, you guys, to be safe in the future, we have to try to make some really smart investments. And so when you are looking at different places, we have to break it down into different areas. So number one, we're going to have 3 boxes, okay? And this is what I want you to understand as far as population. We have cities over 1 million. Then we have 100,000 to 1 million. And then we have here less than 100,000. Okay? Less than 100,000. 3 different groups. When you are investing, you should have a little bit of all 3 of these in your portfolio. And the breakdown of these properties is very, very different depending on how you look at it. Because when you look at a property in a city that's over 1 million people, they have high land value, high land. And then this box will be material and labor. And then one last one in labor. We'll put an L here, okay? But when you look at this city here, then you'll only have this big of land. It gets smaller. But then the boxes for material and labor will be identical. And then when you get in a small city that is less than 100,000, your land value is very small. And then your material and labor are exactly the same. So the difference is their material and labor are always the same almost wherever you go. The difference in the value of the property is the amount that you're assigning to the land value, which is the biggest chunk. And that's what I try to warn everybody about, is to stay clear of the ones right now that have not fallen. We are currently in an environment where people are delusional about the prices that they're asking as a market, because people are still saying to me all the time, well, I want what I want. I want the price I could have got last year. I know, I know. I wish I had a golden toilet too. Isn't that the expression? But it's not always that way. The other comment that we get a lot, well, if a wealthy person from overseas comes and pays for it, this thing is he still is not going to pay you 2 million for your home when across the street is the identical home for 1 million. And so we're at a very confused market, I would call it, because let's just say that the home today is worth 1 million by everyone, and everyone agrees it's worth 1 million. The sellers are trying to sell the home for 1.5, which is very unreasonable. And a lot of the buyers that are out there are trying to offer $500,000 on that home, which is also unreasonable. And so we're at a very weird time where everybody seems to be unreasonable right now, unfortunately. We also have in the market today a lot of weirdness that is happening because there's a huge cohort of people who are always looking for homes, and they're always saying they're looking for homes. We know many clients who have been looking for 5 years, 8 years, 10 years for a property. And imagine the amount of time that they're using from their mortgage brokers, from their real estate agents, and they're looking at homes every weekend for 10 years. Unbelievable. So, we have to make sure that you're spending your time properly. And those people are the same people who are going in and offering $500,000 on $1 million home. So a lot of weird stuff is happening in the market. That's why I say it's a very confused market. Anyway, you guys, I think that it's some real interesting stuff that's going to be happening this year. I'm still looking at Q3 as some fireworks potentially happening around that time. Of course, it could happen earlier, depending on Ukraine and Russia and all the other things that are happening in the world today. But the interest rates most likely will be going up. Remember, interest rates, they say they would pause them if the inflation was controlled and the jobs were controlled. We had record number of jobs, 150,000 in Canada. US had record number of jobs, and inflation is still running really, really hot. So the odds of them lowering the rate, I don't really believe it. And even if they do, there's more rates to come. So they got to crush that inflation, but they have to do that by lowering the price of your home, putting more interest on you, and have more people lose their jobs, which is sad. So it's not good news for some people who haven't prepared, but the other people who have prepared, this is going to be a purchasing opportunity of your lifetime. We haven't seen something like this in 15 years. So we're going to be very excited to be able to buy properties at really good deals. I was just talking to my wife earlier today about this woman who used to live in Toronto. Actually, I think she still lives in Toronto. In 1981, property prices dropped by 50% in a matter of months. And they went and purchased, her parents went and purchased 3 properties in one weekend. There's a difference between price and value. And when you see those properties jump on the market and there's such great deals, great loan, like the value of the home to rent ratio, when it's that great, you have to buy it and you have to be prepared. And so those people who are prepared are never scared. They're excited. So I'm excited about the time that we're going into. It's going to shake up a lot of things. And all those millionaire pretenders that you've seen, the ones who have bought all these extra homes, fancy watches, driving fancy cars, all those people that overspent on fancy clothes and everything else. Warren Buffett always says, when the tide goes out, you're going to see who's swimming naked. So all those pretend millionaires that you see on Instagram and stuff are no longer going to be there. But the people who have planned for a long time and have been around for a long time and have experience in this are going to be around for a long time. If you're thinking about selling your property, you guys, in Toronto, that's what we specialize in. Of course, you can go to sellhigher.ca. You could choose your own commission and cancel anytime. There's no fees, and you can have a free consultation if you're looking to sell your home. Just go to sellhigher.ca. That's what we specialize in, is selling your home for more money. We do it faster and less hassle. After doing it for as long as I have and our entire team, at the end of the day, that's the only 3 things that people really care about. I want my home sold fast for the most money and the least amount of headache on them. And if you can actually pull that off, then all your clients are always happy. Anyway, guys, I hope this helped. I wish you the very, very best. Hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.